Alright, it's Wednesday, April 23rd. I'm trying to do this every day. I'm not trying to make this an hour every day, though, like I did yesterday. I rambled for about 50 minutes yesterday about random stuff. And this is just my conversation approach to this, what I'm doing. I spoke before that once my book is out, I would like to do an audiobook so I could get it out to more people. Some people just don't like reading. And I'm like, if I can do an audiobook, that would probably sell more than my actual book. But the way I'm speaking now and through my other videos, I don't think I could be effective doing narration like this. It's a different kind of vocalization when you speak a more, I don't know, you have to use a different voice or something. And I've had trouble with that. I tried to do some practice where I read one of my chapters, and it's kind of difficult for me. But I might try to do one next week on YouTube, and I'll read it out loud, and maybe it'll help me get more comfortable with it. I'm a little bit more comfortable doing it like this, just whatever pops in my head. I'm kind of just speaking. And yesterday I rambled way too much, so I had to edit a lot of stuff because it was just all over the place. It wasn't so much the content; it was just the my stream of consciousness just went in crazy zigzag in a zigzag fashion that it kind of took away from the albums and artists that I was trying to thank for being influential to me. So today is the same thing. I have 10 artists, 10 albums that are kind of featured in my book, kind of helped me write some of my albums. And I'll try to keep this video to like 30 minutes today if I can. I did do a little bit of research this time because maybe I'm not as familiar with some of these, so I wanted to have something to look at so I know what to speak about. Some of them I'm very comfortable speaking about. Some of them I had to do a little bit of research just to find out a little bit more about the artist, where they're from, maybe, and I don't know, just to give give me some structure in these videos. It's kind of interesting to hear somebody ramble, but I think for a video like this, where I'm trying to discuss specific albums that were important in my life, it's probably better to have some structure as well, so it doesn't seem like I'm doesn't seem as scatterbrained. My book is kind of like that. My book, I would even term it kind of scatterbrained at times, but the 54 chapters in my book, I already explained it. Like there's a little preface, maybe 4 or 5 pages before you get to the lyrics to the songs. And I've been through this book at least 5, 6 times now. And over the last 2 nights, I edited another 200 pages. So I have about 600 pages left to do. I'm doing like 100 pages a night. Before, when I wasn't doing this YouTube stuff, I was doing 200 pages a day, and I kind of could get through my book in about a week, a little bit over a week sometimes. Now I'm kind of just doing it 100 pages to be a little bit more relaxed about it. And I'm still making some edits in terms of like where the commas are and the flow of stuff and some formatting stuff. But overall, I think it's a finished product after this last edit because I like the tone that I'm speaking in, and I'm pretty happy with it so far through 400 pages. There's still 600 pages to go, and I think I'm only up to like my albums from 2015 right now. So I have a lot, almost 10 more years to go through, and another maybe 20 or so albums to edit. I'm not editing the lyrics right now because I've done the lyrics like seriously like 10 to 20 times. My 400 songs, like I've edited them probably too much to make them too polished because I like them being raw too. there's that poetic license that is different than when you're writing just more narrative stuff. There's a poetic license that it's not just a cop out or an excuse. It's cool to see stream of consciousness. I love stuff like that. I have a playlist in my book of my favorite stream of consciousness songs, like 50 songs that kind of just, I don't know, they make me feel like the artist who wrote it, they were going through a stream of consciousness when they wrote these songs. I have a playlist about that. And that's kind of what these videos are right now. I'm trying to get more professional about it and not make noises. I don't have a professional setup, but I'm doing the best I can right now. But all right, that's the intro, I guess. So yesterday I showed the album covers on my tablet because I don't own these on vinyl, and I'll do the same thing today. It kind of looked okay. I had to edit a lot of stuff because I kept putting this on my furniture and it kept making a loud noise and I didn't like how it sounded. That's why I was editing stuff all yesterday. It took me like all day to edit it. But I'm new to this approach of how to make things more pleasing to people's ears so they don't hear loud bangs and stuff like that. So now I'm more uh, cognizant of stuff like that as I make these videos in the future. All right, so let's just get started with this. This is Idles, Joy as an Act of Resistance. I think it's 2018. Yeah, I did write the years down this time. I love this album. I guess it's post punk. I think they're from, see, I didn't do enough research. They're from the UK, either Ireland or something like that. I'm not sure, man. But they're awesome. Um, one of my albums from 2024 is called Paradigm Shift. And it's a very political album, post punk style. What does post punk mean to me? I don't know. People, you can compare Talking Heads to post punk. Idols is nothing really like that. They're just high energy. I really fell in love with their music. Um, they have a live concert on YouTube where they're playing like at a wedding, like a wedding reception. And it's like one of my favorite concerts on YouTube. And they're just fun, man. They're a fun band. Never seen them live. I don't know a lot about them. I've watched the lead singer do some podcasts. He was pretty cool. And I listened to their latest album. It was really good. This one's like humorous. Like there's some really funny song titles, funny lyrics, but they do get more political as well. And they talk about serious issues. It's post punk. I think most people can understand what post punk kind of is as a genre. And so my Paradigm Shift album, I wrote it in 2024. And in my book, I compared it to this one and Protomartyr, if I'm saying their name right. Protomartyr's album. I forget the name of it now. Life in the Desert or something like that. And that's kind of the music I'm going for. I never tried writing like post punk stuff, but for some reason that was the direction I went in 2024. I wasn't planning to write anything new because at that point, just like I am now, like I'm not trying to write anything new. Sometimes I'll get random lyrics in my head, but I'm not going to write an entire album right now or let anything like kind of distract me from finishing this book and doing the marketing stuff that I'm trying to do. But in 2024, yeah, I wasn't trying to write anything new, but I just had so many ideas in my head and it just came out. So I had to go in the direction. It was Weaponized Sex and it was Paradigm Shift. They're both kind of heavy albums dealing with sexuality, dealing with politics and religion and just kind of finding identity and why identity politics is kind of a fraud completely. And Paradigm Shift kind of goes through all that stuff. It's 12 post punk songs that I wrote. and I was trying to make them as funny as possible. One song is called Moonlight Graham is my favorite human being. It's about Moonlight Graham from Field of Dreams, and yeah, that's probably my favorite song on that because it's just I don't know why I came up with that. Maybe I'd watched Field of Dreams before, and it was still in my head for some reason. But a lot of the songs they're not meant to be taken seriously, even though there's some serious stuff in there and some bad language. But I don't want to get into language stuff again. But yeah, this album, Idols, Joy is an Active Resistance, was definitely the biggest influence when I wrote that album. I love the music, I love the energy they have, and I don't know, there, there's a lot of post punk that can kind of sound similar, and you might get kind of bored with the same thing after a while. But they're very talented musicians. They kind of approach it in different ways and just fearless. They're fearless band, and they just go high energy. Like I would love to see them live. They're on like the bucket list to see live because just from the few concerts I watched on YouTube, yeah, they have that high energy that you just would be very captivating, very immersive experience. So yeah, if they ever come around, I might have to go see them. All right. These aren't really in order. I wrote down like a long list of albums that are in my book that I talk about that were inspiring to me, and I just kind of picked out 10 at a time randomly. So the second one is something everyone probably knows, 1992, I believe, and yeah, it's probably my favorite rap album. Like I probably didn't listen to this in the 90s too much, maybe the late 90s. I was born in 81, so in the early 90s, I was only like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. I didn't really know rap music besides Vanilla Ice and like Criss Cross, MC Hammer. But to get more into this stuff, it was like some of my cooler friends knew more about that. Easy E, Regulators, and more of the West Coast stuff. Snoop Dogg. So I did enjoy that stuff. Growing up in the suburbs, it's cool to listen to gangster rap. Just like because it's kind of foreign to your ears at that point. And the Chronic's the best. Like the production, all the samples and all the. I don't think there's an album that kind of matches it. But I'm not a rap expert either. I tried to get more into hip hop stuff because I listed my favorite hip hop albums as well in my book. I wrote like four rap albums, and over since 2020, I think. Before 2020, I never would have even thought about making a rap song unless I was trying to make like a Weird Al Yankovic song, maybe. That would be like the closest that maybe I could come to. But 2020 to 2024, I wrote four or five rap albums with like, I really took the time to kind of develop lyrics and find a different style because, I can't do Dr. Dre stuff. I wanted to just be more authentic about stuff I was going through, and that form of expression, rap, it's more aggressive, more just like no holds bar stuff, and it was fun. I would still do it again. I get lyrics all the time that I kind of put down even now, and even if I just get a lyric a day, like I always write something down that maybe could form into a song later. So the Chronic is my favorite clear cut rap album. Um, I don't know. I even listened to it maybe about a year ago, and it was just as powerful. It's got a unique production style, and to me, it's like the Sergeant Pepper of like hip hop. Like people will listen to this forever. It's just a classic. Maybe some of the skits are kind of weird, but whatever. I think a lot of hip hop stuff had stuff like that, and I don't know. I write a little bit about rap lyrics in my book. Sometimes people get all kind of upset about rap lyrics because they're kind of violent or aggressive, or they feature topics that people don't want their children exposed to. I understand all that. Just like heavy metal music in the 80s, people were all freaked out about that stuff. You got to put parental advisory. I'm not saying this is a great album for a child to listen to, but it's great musically. Like if you separate the some of the messages and lyrics and stuff, like it's like would you it's weird when it comes to music, people don't view music like as a cinematic thing. I feel like people are more condoning, if that's the right word, of like gangster movies and Goodfellas, where violence is Reservoir Dogs, where violence is almost like glorified, and movies like Blow that glorify the drug culture almost, even though there's a good message to these movies as well. But when it comes to like heavy metal and oh, it's all satanic stuff, and when it comes to gangster rap, people don't really treat it like an art form. They think it's just promoting social ills and stuff. So I never understood that. I didn't grow up in that kind of environment, but I don't know what it's like. If that's your reality, then write about it. I don't see what's wrong about that. So I love this album. Um, I'm not an expert in hip hop, man. Like I write many times in my book because I don't want to come off like I'm fake. Like, I went to Catholic school. I'm a suburban white dude, and I got into rap maybe in late high school years into college, but I never really got into it until recently because I was trying to develop my inner rapper. Most likely, if I ever try to perform stuff and record the songs that I have for my albums, I would have to do spoken word or something. Uh, it's kind of funny. When I first came up with my rap songs, I would like ride my exercise bike. And while I was on my exercise bike, the blood pumping, I would start to rap my lyrics and record it like that. So I wouldn't forget how the songs go. And it's hilarious when I listen to it now. I still think the songs are good. Of course, maybe I'm biased, but I think I improved a lot with my vocabulary and just rhyme patterns and trying to develop a different hip hop style where it's like more ambient music. It has people. I'm sure it's been done like ambient music where people rap over ambient music or electronic stuff more. Yeah, it's been done. Everything's been done, right? But basically, I'm trying to find a new way to be authentic where it's tough because I don't know I don't know what my authentic voice is for anything really, but I don't let it really bother me. Like I always I always brought up imposter syndrome. Like, man, fuck that shit. I'm tired of thinking about imposter syndrome. Like, I'm just trying to make cool stuff, man. I'm trying to make cool screenplays, cool music. I'm not trying to be fake or just do this for the wrong reasons. I want to make cool stuff and share it with people. That's all like my intentions are really, and make money too. But yeah, why not? But yeah, Dr. Dre the Chronic. It led me to other stuff too. But I think I'm more like West Coast fan. But again, I'm not an expert in hip hop stuff. I like East Coast too. Like the Roots are from Philadelphia. There's a lot of good East Coast stuff. All right, we're going all the way to Norway now, and this is from last year. This is Aurora. Every time, or what happened to the heart? Sorry. I could have picked a lot of her albums because I think I bought like all her catalog a couple years ago. She's from Norway, and she might be my favorite overall vocalist. It's tough to pick just one, but Aurora from, I think she's from Norway, Norwegian, and her voice is just insanely powerful. If you never heard her, there's a great. I don't want to promote her for based on a cover song, but she does a cover of Field. What's it called? The David Bowie song, Life on Mars. I was saying Field of Mars for some reason because I think I have a song called that. But Life on Mars, I think she went on Howard Stern and she did a cover of that. And that might have been one of the first times I heard her voice. Howard Stern had her on the cover of the David Bowie song Life on Mars. But she has plenty of her own material, and she writes about crazy stuff. Like her songwriting is exceptional. Her singing is just absolutely insane. Like like she's not even human. And a lot of her songs about that are about that, not being human and stuff. I'm a big fan. Like it's weird to listen to certain artists that maybe I wouldn't have given a chance to in my younger days or in my 30s, but I can just appreciate the passion she has and like her vocal ability. It's just insane. And her album from last year, it kept growing on me, kept growing on me. Like I think I gave it like 100 out of 100 when I do my ratings. And yeah, every song is just perfect, man. But I bought a lot of her stuff. She has a pretty extensive discography, and I don't think I've ever heard a bad song from her. She's one of those artists that they just don't do anything bad, and she's kind of. I mentioned Idols being fearless. She gives off that same aura. Like she's so confident in herself. She feels so comfortable in her own body, and she's just fearless completely. I would recommend her to anyone if you'd like unique voices that maybe you never thought you would like. Just give it a chance. It's the production is crazy. Like yeah, she's very popular. Like, she definitely gets crazy production value, and her albums sound so pristine. But yeah, the songs are just good. Even if she wasn't like that and she was making raw recordings of just her singing into like a tape recorder, I would buy that stuff because her voice is just so pure and effortless. And yeah, I'm a big fan. I would. She's one of those artists where if she came out with a new album, I would just buy it without even listening to anything because I know it's going to be good. That's how I would describe her. And yeah, I probably didn't become a fan of hers until I don't know 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm glad I found her because now she's like one of my favorite vocalists overall. And yeah, we'll go Matthew Logan Vasquez. This is from 2019. It's called Lighten Up. I think this is gonna show up okay like this. I could get all fancy with my uh, editing program, I guess, and just put the covers like how people do it sometimes with the text that comes up on the video. But I figured I'd just do it like this. I did buy all these albums. I just don't have vinyl copies of everything I've listened to. You know, it's just too much to. There's too many albums that I would want vinyl copies of. It's just not realistic. But Matthew Logan Vasquez, I think he's from like Texas, I want to say, or at least he spent some time in Texas. And I think he actually moved to like some Norwegian country, speaking in Norway. He was, well, I think Delta Spirit is still around. I'm not sure actually. But he does his own solo thing. He's done other projects with other people. And Delta Spirit, that was the first time I heard of him. He's the lead singer of Delta Spirit. I saw them live maybe 10 years ago in Philadelphia. I've been a big fan of that band. They have a lot of good albums, kind of just punky classic rock, and it's hard to term. It's kind of Americana, but it's heavy guitar. Every album kind of experiments with a different production style almost. But I like his solo stuff a lot. This album especially, two songs just totally sold me on this album. Vacation, and I think the other one's called like Trailer Park. And man, it's just a fun song. I just kept listening to those two songs because he made really cool videos of them, and then eventually I bought this album. Every song is very well crafted and very energetic, and I just love this album specifically. I could have picked a Delta Spirit album because I love those as well. And the reason I picked this one, well, he probably is like my favorite male vocalist because I just like his raspiness and the way he belts it out. I wrote, well, in my other videos, I discussed my original series idea, The Madman's Daily Unequivocal Comedy. I wrote 12 episodes so far, like 12 screenplays, about 50 to 60 pages long for season one of my series. I have another like 24 episodes outlined that I haven't worked on yet. And one of them is about like an alien race in the far distant universe, and somehow through satellites they hear of American rock and roll music. So it's kind of like Footloose on a alien planet where these aliens are probably some dystopian society, but then they find rock and roll music, and these aliens kind of learn how to have fun and stuff. And the soundtrack to that screenplay is this album, the Light 'em Up, Lighten Up, whatever it's called, Lighting Up. Matthew Logan Vasquez from 2019. I used a lot of songs from that album to kind of direct the story. I didn't write the screenplay yet. It's just the outline. I was like, I have to use this album because I want the aliens to like live in a trailer park or something similar to that. It's kind of one of my weirder ideas, but yeah, it's an influential album for many reasons like that. Sometimes an album just hits you, and this one definitely hit me. I went to see him at the Boot and Saddle in Philadelphia. I don't know, 2017 or 18, and yeah, it was really good live. And this next one, I'll show an album cover first. This is called Bardo, and it's from 1981. And if you can see this one, it's kind of bright. It's ambient, and the artist name is Peter Michael Hamill. It's called Bardo from 1981. I could have picked his other one, Colors of Time. I think it's also from around this period. Those are the only two I really checked out so far. The reason I showed him was because I bought his book a few years ago, which I talked about in my book a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see this stuff, but this book, one of the best music books I've ever read. I had to buy it on paperback because they didn't have it on Kindle. But if you can find a copy of this, check it out. It's Peter Michael Hamill, Through Music to the Self. He probably wrote this in the 70s or so. 1978, yeah. And it's just kind of a sociological look at music and the healing power of music. He talks about tribal regions of the world and how they use music to heal people, and more modern techniques and even like yoga techniques and breathing techniques, which if there's a book I need to read to improve my own stuff, it's this book. I have to read this again because he talks about all that stuff, why people chant in a certain way, and the syllables they use to chant and what that does to your body and your breathing. And he talks about music as well. It's not just about all that stuff. I wouldn't really say this is a new age book, but he goes into some of that stuff. But new age, it's really not that I know a lot about it. It's based on old tribal stuff, like what people were doing thousands of years ago to make music without instruments. They would use their voices or whatever, and there's like a healing power to that. I love this book. I only read it one time, but it still kind of impacts me when I try to do stuff. So I don't know a lot about his other stuff. He's got a lot of stuff on Spotify. If you want to check him out further, Peter Michael Hamill. And yeah, his two albums I've listened to are really good. No lyrics, just very meditative, minimalist, ambient music, and I love that stuff. See, the time goes by fast. I'm already past like 30 minutes, and we're going on to something kind of different. This is no wave music. A lot of people know Swans by now, I think. This is the Glowing Man from maybe 2015 or 16. Swans is one of those bands I did check out pretty in depth. The first album I ever heard was The Seer, and then I kind of just went back into their catalog like that. Their older stuff is kind of harder for me to appreciate, but I understand it. Like the no wave scene in the 80s in New York is very interesting to me. I talk about no wave in my book a little bit and why it's interesting to me. I just think it's cool that people want to experiment with music. I don't care about all the other stuff really. If your goal is to make something unique and different and connect to some energy that maybe no one ever really claimed, like it's tough to make something new, right? Like it's in music, it's very hard to be considered someone who's innovative because so much has been done already and you're trying to blend genres together to form something different, fusion. It's hard to make something different, but if you never heard Swans, you have to be patient with it. No matter what you really listen to, you kind of have to just be patient with it. I like The Glowing Man probably the best. Frankie M is probably my favorite overall song that I've heard from Swans. I think it's like 20 minutes long. Um, I should have done a little bit more research on this band. I bought one of their a book about them that I never read, and there's a documentary about them that I never watched. So I'm not as knowledgeable, but I've watched a lot of other videos on YouTube about people talking about them. And it's hard to listen to their older stuff. It's very raw and just kind of distorted chaos. But even their newer stuff has elements of that. But he's a great composer, Michael Gura. He's a great composer. He's done a lot of other side projects, and yeah, they're one of the most influential bands. If I had to pick just no wave people, the first band that comes to mind is Swans. But then they led me to Glenn Branca, who I love Glenn Branca's stuff. He might actually be my favorite because one of my favorite guitarists and just composers because he was doing new stuff that nobody ever really tried doing before. That's why no wave was cool to me, I guess. And it could be very aggressive too. I like that. And there's an attitude to it that's maybe kind of nihilistic, but it's more just raw energy that is very addicting once you get into it. Give Swans a chance. Like if you never try to listen to them, it's kind of dark and disturbing at times, but it's powerful music. And I don't know what else I could really say. They're definitely up there, like influential bands in my life. I would have to put Swan somewhere because maybe I didn't hear them until my mid 30s with the Seer when that came out, and then they kind of had newer stuff after that. He even put in an album last year called The Beggar, which was really good. And yeah, they're one of those bands I would have to cite, like my top 20 most influential bands. I have to put Swans on there. And yeah, I said it before. It might be hard to get into bands like that. Earth. I spoke about that band Earth yesterday, and I love them just as much. And there's just the I don't know if they're considered no wave or I don't know what the genre is, but fuck the genres, whatever genre you want to call it. Like, it's good to have a basis so you could speak on things intelligently. When I say it's a post punk band, it's a no wave band. At least you give people an idea of what they're going to listen to, and but just go listen to Swans. It's good music. The next one is a very popular album. I'm not a heavy metal guy. I list like only 10 heavy metal albums that have been vital in my life, and I think this was on the list. Paranoid from 1970, I think. I could have picked their debut as well because I think I actually like the debut better now. But this was probably the first one I heard, Black Sabbath. And the reason I wanted to talk about this album, I list like my favorite anti-war songs in my book. I think I listed maybe 20, and it's all over the place. There's like Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, stuff from the '60s, Rage Against the Machine stuff, and War Pigs was my favorite. I think War Pigs is like generally one of the best songs ever, but I think it's the best anti-war song ever, and that that's the main reason I wanted to speak about this album. I'm not a heavy metal guy, just like probably even less than hip hop. I probably know less about heavy metal than any genre. Like I never got into the whole like dark metal, black metal. It's tough to get into if you didn't grow up with it. New metal, and I don't even know half the genres. There's a whole like Norwegian metal scene that I never really explored. I'm not saying I wouldn't like it because I probably would like some of the stuff. Like Blood Incantation, I gave it a chance last year. And I usually don't like screaming vocals, but I did enjoy that album because that was like on everyone's list of best albums of the year. Mama Leak, they're kind of heavy metal. I found them last year. They're more experimental stuff. So I like heavy stuff. It's just sometimes heavy metal doesn't connect with me exactly for some reason. But I've tried to write albums. Like I said yesterday, I wrote a heavy metal album called Phalanx, and it's only like 6 songs, I think. But I would compare it more to Black Sabbath, 1970s type of heavy metal stuff. There's like a psychedelic appeal to Black Sabbath to me that makes it more interesting. And so I can't really speak too much about it, but I know a lot of heavy metal bands would cite this. It's like very influential to a lot of different genres, and yeah, um, I haven't really listened to anything else from Black Sabbath besides like those two first albums. I never tried to really experiment with everything, but I love those two. They're both equally like perfect albums to me, and I guess that's all I can really talk about. Like heavy metal is something I do want to explore. Like it's been kind of tough for me to get into it for some reason. I don't like screaming vocals as much. Like I can deal with it in like punk rock, hardcore music more, but for some reason, just like the demonic screaming just never really connected with me. And I know I said yesterday that I love everything, but yeah, maybe I don't. Of course, you don't love everything. Like I try to. Like I'll give anything a chance. I'm saying, but sometimes I just have trouble connecting with a genre of music and the screaming, dark metal, death metal. I've never had a, like a really emotional experience with anything really. Maybe a little bit, but like White Zombie, I like that. Is that heavy metal? I list that on my top heavy metal albums because I loved that as a kid. Astro Creep. I love White Zombie. So it's really just the newer metal stuff. I never gave it the time to really go down that rabbit hole. Uh, this is gonna go like to an hour or two because I'm talking too much. This is a winged victory for this. Sorry, same one. A winged victory for the Solon Atomos, if I'm saying that correctly. This is completely different. It's back to the ambient part of my brain. And if I had to pick my favorite, like 20 ambient albums or so, I'm tired of lists. Just this is one of my favorite ambient albums of all time. A winged victory for the Sullen Atomos, and it's like over an hour long. But and I know I said for me, I would want to make albums that are like more 30 to 45 minutes because once you get to an hour, it's probably going to get bloated with a lot of filler stuff. But more ambient stuff like this, I can kind of deal with, or Swans even because it's a different kind of music where you're supposed to drone out and take an hour, 2 hours to kind of meditate on the entire album. And this is what a winged victory for the Sullen does. Yeah, highly recommend this. It's one of the first ambient experience that I had, and there, one of my Substack posts, and I'll link it to the description in this video, is like 30 audio files of myself in my car at random moments of my life when I was like first creating songs. It's actually kind of interesting, even when I listen to it. And one of them is I was in my car driving to work or from work or somewhere, and I had an idea for a melody, and this album was playing in my car, and you could hear it in the background. And I was trying to form a melody to the ambient music, which is, I wouldn't say I'm trying to steal their music. It's just they're inspiring me to try to form a vocal melody because I just love the way they write ambient stuff. And this was a pretty popular album. I forget how I heard about it. Uh, I haven't really followed this band's trajectory since then. I'm sure they have other stuff, but I haven't really explored too much other stuff by them. But I had to share this one because I've actually tried making songs while listening to this. Like if you listen to ambient music, something might click in your brain and cause you to, well, that would be a cool melody if they were singing here. And I don't think that's exactly stealing from an artist. You're just kind of using it as a guide to form something else from it, which I don't think that's an outright way to steal someone's music or anything. You're just using it to inspire you. And I think ambient music's really cool if you're getting stuck and you need something different. Put on ambient music if you're a songwriter or any kind of artist, and you can kind of have reflective moments like that. And yeah, this is one of my favorites. I don't want to keep talking about the same thing about the healing power of music, but that's what this album does. The Peter Michael Hamill and this one, that's the type of music that gets you into that soothing area of your brain. And I guess that's all I really can say about that one. I wrote little notes this time on my laptop, so I want to make sure I talk about everything. I also have an album. One more thing, like Columbo. One more thing. I have an album called Back in Time in my book. It's one of my earlier albums, and I was listening to Atomos by Winged Victory for the Sullen like the whole time I was editing that chapter. So I'm sure even subconsciously this album has been a part of my music somehow, and it probably continue to be. But that's all I really can say, I guess. I'm already at 45 minutes, so let me talk quickly about these last two. The next one is, it's kind of corny to say this, like I'm a teenage kid, but they're the coolest band ever. They're probably like seriously the coolest band that I found recently. This is from 1996, Bowery Electric. They're from New York. This album's called Beat. They have a couple other ones. They had one last year called Demos. That was really good. They're probably my favorite band right now. I had to include this because I'm obsessed with this band. When I haven't been working out, but when I did, this was like my favorite thing to listen to because it puts me in like the happiest mood. And yeah, I love this band like crazy, man. If I had to pick my favorite band like right now, it's probably them. And for many reasons, I guess it's technically shoegaze, but I love the way they do their vocals. I love their production. I'm not very knowledgeable about this band. I don't know how many people are in this band or anything. Like, I didn't do any research on them. All I know is that they're from New York and they're a part of the 90s, mid 90s shoegaze movement, I guess. And something about them just clicked, connected with me from the first time I heard them. And there's like a drone quality. I like the female vocals. I don't know. They just write interesting music, I guess. I can't explain it. Like, for some reason, I just totally fell in love with this band. They don't have a huge discography. This album, they have another one from the 90s, and I think the one from last year. But I could put it on at any time and just be happy. Like, they're one of those bands that I would buy all their stuff on vinyl at some point. And if you like shoegaze stuff, yeah, go check it out. And the last one is a artist I found. I think I downloaded his album, The Dark Tree, a while ago. Maybe when I had the eMusic site, because I feel like I bought that off of eMusic. There was a whole article about Horace Tapscott, and I think he did a lot of his music in the 60s and 70s, as well as later in the 80s and 90s. Horace Tapscott. I didn't pick The Dark Tree. I picked this one because I found this one later, and it's probably in my top five or so jazz albums. I don't want to mispronounce stuff, but I believe his name is Horace Tapscott. He was a pianist and a composer, Pan African People's Orchestra. It's that spiritual type of jazz that, speaking of the no wave genre, like, it kind of reminds me of that because it's very experimental and it kind of goes distorted, kind of clashing. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to think of it. Not distorted. It's like a clashing type of music almost. And you'll be listening to it, and maybe it sounds like normal jazz, but then it just grows and grows to something else. Kamasi Washington, some of his stuff reminded me of this. I don't know if he was influenced by Horace Tapscott. It's a spiritual type of jazz, but it's also just like very avant garde at times. And I don't know, what do they call it? Soul jazz? A soul. This is on the record. It says Soul Jazz Records, but I guess that's just a label, maybe. I don't know. This one really hit me though. I included this in my book a couple of times. I think one of these has a spoken word poetry that was very inspiring to me. When I spoke in my stream of consciousness songs, I included the one one of these tracks is like a spoken word, and I love it. It always hits me really hard. Most of it's just instrumental though, and it I put this on my favorite jazz albums. It's somewhere in there, top five, top 10, whatever. Like it's based on your mood, I guess. But the Dark Tree is really good. I was obsessed with that one. I still love it. I think I said I wanted that song to be played at my funeral, "The Dark Tree" by Horace Tapscott. But then I was like, maybe it's too somber for a funeral. Like, I wouldn't want all like the sad stuff. So yeah, uh, I wrote a note here to speak about that because this is kind of connected to another weird album I wrote in my book, which I'll speak on very quickly since I'm at 50 minutes already. I'm probably not going to edit this one. Yesterday, I spent all this time editing and trying to make it more appealing to the ears. I think I did a decent job where I wasn't too scatterbrained, but I'll have to go back and listen to this. But I have a chapter in my book based on an album I wrote called Thoughts at a Funeral. It's an old one. Originally, it was all instrumental songs with no lyrics. Again, I wanted to include it in my book of poetry, so I had to add words to it. I can't just say, well, these are 10 songs that are instrumentals. That's not very good. Why do you want to read about this? So I had to write lyrics for it. A lot of it was based on just weird thoughts. I was picturing somebody at a funeral because the limited funerals I've been to, like, it's just people sitting there, and I always wonder what they're thinking about in their head. So that was the concept of the album. Somebody sitting at a funeral and random thoughts that pop in their head, and I was able to form songs like that. I love it. It's a cool concept that before it's a different album from all the other ones I wrote because before you get to the lyrics, I wrote like a little short story of what the person is thinking at the funeral, thoughts at a funeral, the title of the album. So they're kind of cartoonish, where I could one day maybe make another children's book based on that album because they're kind of funny. Yeah, they're morbid, but in a funny way. Like I don't want to give out any examples because they're I don't know. I'd rather just let people read about it. And I wanted to speak on that really quickly because I don't know how that's exactly related to the Horace Tapscott, but I remember I did say that at one point for my own funeral. I would want like his song "The Dark Tree" to play because I don't know. I was obsessed with that song at that point. But now I'm like, if I my funeral, I would just want to be like floated on a lake somewhere and just have people like shoot flaming arrows towards me. Like random people or whoever wants to do it. You just buy. I think it's a good idea for a funeral home because I think funeral homes and all that stuff is just kind of a scam and stuff. So just put my body on like a raft, set it on fire, or like a Viking funeral thing, and people could just stand there on the shore and just shoot flaming arrows at me. Like, who wouldn't want that? That's pretty damn cool for a funeral, man. You get to shoot flaming arrows at the dead body. Like, you could go steal this idea if somebody has the same twisted sense of humor like me, because dude, you could charge people money for that shit. Random people could just show up like they're at a driving range, just buy the arrows and just yeah. I would want like funerals to be more fun like that with some audience participation. But yeah, I guess I'll end this here on that note. I'm at 55 minutes. So these videos are progressively getting longer and longer. I'm trying to do one a day, but I'm gonna run out of ideas soon. If I can just pick 10 albums to speak about, I'll do that. But eventually, I'm gonna run out of stuff to talk about. And Friday and Saturday is my usual like music videos where I try to cover a song and pick one of my songs to kind of dissect and speak about for half an hour or so. So I might do a video again tomorrow, maybe not. I might be at that point where I need to take a break from doing this. But if I find another 10 albums that I want to speak on or something else, then I'll make another video tomorrow. I did say I wanted to make one every day leading to my book release on May 1st or early May at some point. But yeah, we'll see where this goes if I get the urge to do one tomorrow as well. And that's it. If if you never heard of some of these artists, go check them out. I would recommend all these bands and artists. And yeah, go listen to some music.